I worked in a nursery for a year as an SEN support practitioner, and my job was to deliver one-to-one learning, development, and key skills to support young children with deeply complex learning and development needs. And I was allocated to work with a 4-year-old with autism who everyone mentioned and warned would require a lot of patience, effort, and stamina to support. And one thing that he loved to do was to continuously push the bathroom flush. I remember the first time I saw this. I remember I was entertained, but most others weren't. And the teacher, after a few warnings, whisked him away to the classroom. And I remember how loud he cried and how much he screamed and just how distressed he was. Later in the garden, I saw something else. He kneeled down to bite the grass and then went over to bite the edge of the wall as well. And so I asked the teacher again, why, or what's causing this? What's driving this? And she said, he's doing it for attention. And ultimately that felt too dismissive of an answer because it didn't really give any insight into what was driving his actions. It's far too common to say or to assume that everything that children do is for attention. I really couldn't quite believe it. And because it was my first time working in a nursery, I didn't have an immediate solution to offer either. So I decided to do what I do most of my life and in most of my interactions. I just noticed. I approached with curiosity and openness. And so while he flushed the bathroom, I noticed that he looked like he was trying to achieve something that was important to him. And when he bit the wall or the grass, he looked calmer after. So I sort of synthesized this into my head and I thought, this is important information, let me bank it. So the next time he ran to flush the bathroom, I put a light switch toy in front of him. I didn't say anything, I just presented it to him. He shook his head as if to say, I have no need for this, and continued to press on the flush. So I kneeled down and took the switch toy into my hands and just played with it. I switched it on and off, looked over at the colors, and this gave him the space to see what I was doing, to become curious. And eventually he came over and I presented it to him and I stood back because I had noticed that he liked his own space and he liked to come to things of his own volition rather than being forced. And so I saw that he started to flip the switch, and then later and eventually he took the switch toy back towards the classroom, and ultimately the flush was replaced with that switch and then some others that I presented to him. And I saw that over time the redness left his cheeks. He looked calmer and he looked relieved because he had replaced a behavior that served him to some level to something that was a little bit more sustainable for him in a switch toy. And I realized then what was driving his behavior. And I saw in it a sanctity of a wisdom too. So just by noticing and disbelieving a dismissive or perhaps limited answer, and by embracing him as a human being, cleared my vision just to get my brain thinking and seeing and appreciating his higher instinct that he was just there to self-soothe. Enough for me to be able to find an alternative. And this inclusive approach, which is not so much the domain of a genius or incredibly gifted person, but just because of my own experiences, I always believed that inclusivity and openness and a sense of grace was needed for me, and therefore I should extend it to the world. Ultimately saw this little boy transform from a non-verbal child who experienced multiple meltdowns in a nursery day to, on the last day, his last day at nursery, he came, sat next to me and read Cat in the Hat with a fluency and a joy and an accuracy that would put voiceover actors to shame. And so when you embrace people with the utmost regard and allowance, they transform right in front of you.